So, howdy, Facebook Live. Good start right off the bat, huh?
First glitch.
There you go. So, Sean Yesner, Brian Morris here. Brian is helpful enough to help do an episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. Brian is from AFLAC, and we'll be going into a lot of those details as we record, but I thought you'd enjoy this behind-the-scenes look at the recording process behind the Crushing Debt podcast, formerly known as the Yesner Law podcast. So give me a second here. Let me just get my computer stuff up and running, and we will get going here on the podcast. So I'll give it a second here, Brian, and then we can get going, okay? So welcome to another episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. My name is Sean Yesner, and I'm happy to have a guest with me, Mr. Brian Morris. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
So Brian is with AFLAC, and AFLAC is a short-term supplemental insurance policy, right?
Yes, and more than that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
We can talk about that. So, in the pre-interview, we talked a lot about a lot of different topics, and what I wanted to talk to you about today. I know that you were a former police officer, and so thank you for that service. We all appreciate that. But how did you transition from that into AFLAC?
Well, that's a long story because I haven't put a police officer's uniform on since 1994. That's been a long time ago. I was just kind of bring you up to speed. I was working for an engineering company here in Clearwater, Florida, and I had moved my parents down here to be close because my dad had Alzheimer's, and I wanted to be able to take care of him. As time went on and his situation grew worse and worse, working full-time and helping my mom take care of him full-time became untenable, so I actually resigned from my job and moved in with them so that I could provide 24/7 care for my dad. He passed away last February the 17th, and 8 days after that, my aunt, my mother's sister, passed away of cancer. So there I was. Both of them were gone. It was a very dark time, I guess, for my mom and I. And so I was looking for a job, and I found AFLAC at a job fair quite unexpectedly. They certainly weren't on my radar. I met two fellows there, Enrique Iglesias and Tori Zanol, who talked me into a pitch, right, to see the whole picture.
Right.
And when I went in, the regional guy at the time was Joe Duckett, and he talked about AFLAC and what it did, and he showed how AFLAC helps people. And I saw three things that really attracted me to AFLAC in that presentation. The first thing was that it helped people. Specifically, since my father passed and my aunt passed, the financial pictures of both for my mom as well as for my uncle would have been completely different had either my father or my aunt had AFLAC, and neither one of them did. In my uncle's case, they spent quite a bit of their nest egg on alternate coverages that major medical doesn't pay for. And then in my dad's case, we just lost his income, and he didn't have any kind of insurance. Of course, he was military, so all that was covered, but the loss of income was a big deal.
Right.
So my mom at 72 is now working full time because she can't live off the Social Security that she has got. So it's on me to help her. And so that was the first thing. The second thing was that it's a real, truly entrepreneurial opportunity. And third, I saw a 10-year road to retirement. I'll be able to retire in 10 years with some comfortable income if I play my cards right and do my job, and so far so good.
Wow, that's so. First of all, my condolences. I know we're just beyond a year, at least of this recording, we're just beyond a year of your father and your aunt's passing. So certainly my condolences. And I think that's one of the things that I face a lot in my practice is in terms of when somebody passes and there's that loss of income, number one, and then the increase in medical expenses, number two. And a lot of families come to me and say, well, I don't know how we're going to cover those bills. I don't know how we're going to cover those expenses. And I have an AFLAC policy. I have a couple of AFLAC policies. And I know it's been helpful to me in certain personal situations, unexpected loss, whether it be everything from an injury, car accident, a death, a medical issue, whatever it is.
Right.
And that's where AFLAC a lot of times will kick in and help pay for some of those unforeseen expenses.
Exactly. I talk to a lot of people every week, and it's amazing to me how many folks really don't understand the vulnerability that we all have. Okay, and it's my job, of course, to educate people as much as I can. A lot of people believe that, well, I have major medical coverage, so I'm covered. But then again, they're not looking at the fact that if a dread disease comes along, or a major event like an accident or car accident that lays you on your back for a while, two things occur financially that they're ill prepared for. One of them is an immense amount of unexpected medical debt, because there are deductibles and co-pays and long-term recovery. And in that long list of things that your major medical coverage will cover, there's even a longer list of things that they won't cover. And so a lot of folks end up pulling out of pocket for a considerable amount of money, especially for a cancer diagnosis. My aunt and uncle are great examples of that. And to my knowledge, they spent some significant cash on alternate programs that major medical doesn't pay for, but AFLAC does pay for. And our cancer, for our AFLAC Classic Cancer, I believe that the soup to nuts, from the day the doctor says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I have to tell you you have cancer," to the day he says, "Hallelujah, congratulations, you're cancer free. See you in a year." The average payout's at $54,000 on an AFLAC policy.
It's interesting. One of the reasons that I got my AFLAC policy, which I understand is pretty common within the industry, but one of the reasons I got my AFLAC policy, my father had a heart attack, and he's fine today. We got that cleared up. And in trying to figure out the heart attack, I believe they found colon cancer.
Yeah.
And right after everything was fine, and Dad's okay, and he's back home and he's recovering, and actually today he's retired. And I remember going to the person that I knew as an AFLAC agent at that point, and I said, sign me up for the whole ball of wax, because I remember my dad was a very successful CPA. He owned his own CPA firm, worked for some of the biggest CPA firms in the world. And I remember him making a comment to me that with his AFLAC policy payouts, he was making more for that short period of time than if he had been at work.
Right.
And to me, that was tremendous. And I immediately went out, and for the couple of dollars a day, a couple of pennies a day, depending on what type of plan you buy, and now to know that I'm safe, and now my wife is covered, and now we've got the two boys. One is 5, one is 2.5. He'll be 3 here soon, and I know that they're covered. In fact, I had to use the AFLAC policy when my older son fell down and bumped his head and needed some stitches, and I had to pull from the AFLAC policy, and it paid out a lot of. It almost paid out what the deductible would have cost to go to the medical to the ER. We had to pay a little bit above that, but it paid almost the whole thing. And so it was really useful. I am a huge proponent. I am a huge supporter of AFLAC. So what I wanted to do, though, is talk to you a little bit, because I know you're in district sales, so that's a little bit different than just being an AFLAC agent.
Right. Well, I'm still an AFLAC agent. I'm what they call a district sales coordinator, which means I have now 3 roles rather than just trying to sell AFLAC directly, which I still do.
Right.
That's still my first job, right? But now I also train and mentor the new agents as they come in, and thirdly, I recruit. So, and each of those jobs is very important, because we want to, we obviously have to train and mentor, and there's a big turnover in AFLAC simply because it is 100% commission,
Right.
So it takes a real
you
tenacity to push through the hard times.
You got to eat what you kill, basically.
That's exactly right.
I know a little bit about that, having a law firm as well.
Yeah, exactly. Any small business owner knows exactly what it's like to be an agent under 100% commission.
Right.
Simply because just because you open a law firm doesn't mean people are coming to your door. I mean, we know each other through BNI. You certainly would not invest in BNI if you didn't need to.
Right.
Right. So, I mean,
it's all avenues to grow the business. I mean,
exactly right.
it's the different philosophy of, if I want to pay my mortgage, I got to go out and get more clients.
That's right.
Versus punching the 9 to 5 clock. More than 100, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
So we are pretty much out of time. If somebody is interested in talking to you about becoming an AFLAC agent, or if somebody's interested in talking to you about buying an AFLAC policy, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
The easiest way is just to call me on my cell phone. That's 727-492-9960. Or you can shoot me an email. Even though I go by my middle name, Brian, my official AFLAC email is David, DAVID, _Morris, MORRIS, at us.aflac.com. So those two ways are the best way to get in touch with me. And so if anybody's interested in a career, I certainly want to hear from them. And if you are an insurance broker out there and you're looking for an AFLAC partner and looking for new ways to make money, I can set you right up. And if you're a small business owner and you're looking at ways to help your employees avoid the catastrophe of financial ruin because of dread disease or an unexpected accident, please, by all means, give me a call.
And I do appreciate that. And I will also say, as a small business owner, yes, AFLAC is a tremendous benefit to the employees, and it's a benefit that doesn't come out of the employer's pocket.
That's right.
So it's a tremendous benefit as an employer. It's a benefit from that perspective as well. So looks like we've reached the end of this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. I do appreciate you being on the show, Brian. Thank you. And I appreciate everyone who's tuned into their time to listen to the podcast. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you enjoy the content, please share it on social media. Please let other people know if you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy the content. Thank you again for your time listening, and we'll see you next week in another episode of the Crushing Debt podcast.
Cool beans.
Done.
That was awesome.
And thank you, Facebook Live, for watching this recording, this very in-depth, complex recording of the Crushing Debt podcast. We appreciate you taking your time to watch us record this episode. We hope you tune in when the episode comes out, which should be in a few weeks from now. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.